Most people think debt is just one thing. You either have it or you don't, good or bad, black or white. But that's not true. Debt exists on a spectrum, and where you sit on that spectrum determines whether you're building wealth, standing still, or slowly sinking. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 7 levels of debt, from the kind that makes you richer to the kind that can destroy your entire financial future. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand, and more importantly, exactly what to do about it. Let's get into it. Level 1. No debt, no assets. This is the starting line. Level 1 is where almost everyone begins their financial life. You have no loans, no credit cards, no mortgage. But you also don't have much in the way of assets either. Maybe you're fresh out of school. Maybe you've just started your first job. Maybe you've spent years avoiding debt entirely because you were taught it was dangerous. Here's the thing about level 1. It feels safe, but it's not actually a place to stay forever. Having zero debt sounds like a financial win, and in some ways, it is. You're not paying interest to anyone. You're not at risk of collections calls. Nobody can repossess anything from you. But zero debt also usually means zero leverage. You're not using any tools to accelerate your growth. You're moving at the speed of your paycheck alone. And in a world where inflation eats away at cash sitting idle, standing completely still can quietly cost you money too. Level 1 isn't bad. It's neutral. It's a blank canvas. The question is what you do next, because the next few levels are where the real divergence begins. Level 2. Good debt working for you. Level 2 is where debt starts to become a tool instead of a threat. This is what we call productive debt or good debt. Borrowed money that is used to acquire something that grows in value or generates income over time. Think of a mortgage on a property that appreciates. Think of a student loan that leads to a career with significantly higher earning potential. Think of a business loan used to buy equipment that lets you produce more and earn more. The defining feature of level 2 debt is this: the return you get from the debt is greater than the cost of the debt itself. If you borrow money at a certain interest rate and that borrowed money helps you generate income or build equity that outpaces that rate, you're not losing, you're winning. You're using someone else's capital at an agreed price to build something bigger than you could have built with your own money alone. This is the level where wealthy people spend a lot of their financial lives. Real estate investors, business owners, and long-term investors are often carrying significant debt, but it's debt that's working for them around the clock, even while they sleep. The danger at level 2 is getting the analysis wrong. Believing debt is good just because someone told you home ownership is always good or a degree is always good without actually calculating whether the numbers support that belief in your specific situation. Good debt isn't good because of the category it falls into. It's good because the math works. Level 3, convenience debt paid. In full, level 3 is extremely common, and it's a level a lot of financially responsible people live at without even thinking about it. This is convenience debt using a credit card, a buy now, pay later service, or a line of credit for everyday purchases, but paying the full balance off every single month. At this level, you're not really in debt in any meaningful sense because you're never carrying a balance that accrues interest. Instead, you're using debt instruments as a cash flow tool. You get purchase protection, you get rewards points or cash back, you build a credit history, and you never pay a cent in interest because you clear it every cycle. This level requires one non-negotiable habit: discipline. The moment you start treating the credit limit like extra income instead of a tool you fully repay, you start sliding toward the next levels, the ones where things get more dangerous. Level 3 is a great place to be if, and only if, you have the systems in place to make sure the balance never lingers. Automatic full payments, a clear budget, and an honest relationship with your own spending habits are what keep you here instead of drifting downward. Level 4, manageable consumer debt. Now, we start crossing into more uncomfortable territory. Level 4 is manageable consumer debt. Car loans, moderate credit card balances, personal loans for things that don't appreciate or generate income but that aren't spiraling out of control either. At this level, your monthly payments fit comfortably within your budget. You're not missing due dates. You're not relying on more borrowing to cover the debt you already have. But you are paying interest on things that are losing value or providing no return at all. A car depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot. Furniture bought on a payment plan doesn't grow in value. A vacation charged to a credit card and paid off over 6 months doesn't produce future income. Level 4 debt isn't a crisis. Most people carry some version of it at some point in their lives. The real risk here is complacency, believing that because the payments are manageable today, they'll always be manageable. Interest rates change, incomes change, emergencies happen. What feels comfortable at a stable moment can turn uncomfortable fast if your circumstances shift even slightly. The goal at level 4 is to treat it as a temporary stop, not a permanent residence. Pay it down deliberately, avoid adding to it, and keep a close eye on the total percentage of your income going toward debt payments each month. Level 5, high interest revolving debt. This is where things start to genuinely work against you. Level 5 is high interest revolving debt, primarily credit card balances that are not paid in full, accumulating interest month after month, often at rates well above 20% annually. At this level, the math starts turning hostile. A significant portion of every payment you make goes not toward the actual amount you borrowed, but toward interest charges that exist purely because the balance wasn't cleared. This is what's often called the debt treadmill. You can be making payments every single month and still watch the balance barely move because the interest is outpacing your progress. People end up at level 5 for a lot of reasons, and very few of them involve irresponsibility, a medical bill, a period of unemployment, a car repair that couldn't wait, an income that simply doesn't stretch far enough some months. Life happens, and credit cards are often the only flexible tool available in the moment. But level 5 is dangerous because it's sticky. The high interest rate means a debt fights back against every effort to reduce it. Getting out requires a deliberate strategy, whether that's a debt avalanche method, where you attack the highest interest rate balance first, the debt snowball method, where you build momentum by clearing the smallest balances first, or a balance transfer or consolidation loan that lowers the interest rate long enough for real progress to happen. The most important thing to understand at level 5 is that time is not your friend here. The longer a high interest balance sits, the more of your money goes to interest instead of principal. Getting out of level 5 as quickly as possible should be a financial priority, not an afterthought. Level 6. Debt exceeding income capacity. Level 6 is where debt stops being a manageable inconvenience and starts becoming a structural problem. This is the level where your total debt obligations exceed what your income can realistically support, even with disciplined budgeting. At this stage, minimum payments across multiple debts consume such a large share of your income that there's little to nothing left for savings, emergencies, or even some basic needs. You might be juggling multiple credit cards, personal loans, and other obligations, moving money between them just to stay current. You might be using one form of credit to make payments on another. That's one of the clearest warning signs that you've entered level 6 when new debt is being used to service old debt. This level often creeps up gradually. Nobody plans to get here. It's usually the result of a series of level 4 and level 5 situations stacking on top of each other faster than they can be paid down, sometimes combined with a drop in income or a rise in essential costs. Level 6 requires more than just budgeting tweaks. It usually requires a real reassessment, looking honestly at total debt versus total income, considering options like credit counseling, structured debt management plans, or negotiating directly with creditors. This is also the level where getting professional guidance rather than trying to white knuckle through it alone tends to make the biggest difference. The earlier someone recognizes they've reached level 6, the more options they have available to climb back out. Level 7, insolvency and predatory debt. And finally, level 7, the deepest level. This is the point of insolvency, where debts significantly exceed both income and assets combined, and traditional repayment is no longer a realistic path forward without dramatic intervention. Level 7 often includes predatory debt, payday loans with extreme interest rates, title loans that risk essential property like a vehicle, or debts that have gone to collections and are now accumulating additional fees and penalties on top of the original balance. At this level, the debt isn't just hard to pay off. Mathematically, without a change in strategy, it may be impossible to pay off through minimum payments alone. This is the level associated with severe financial stress, collection calls, legal action, wage garnishment, and in some cases, bankruptcy becoming a genuine and sometimes necessary option rather than a last resort to be feared. It's important to say clearly, reaching level 7 is not a moral failing. It's usually the result of compounding hardship, job loss, medical crises, predatory lending practices, or debt that was already unmanageable at level 6 and simply never got addressed. Getting out of level 7 typically requires structural solutions, not just budgeting adjustments. This might mean working with a nonprofit credit counseling agency, exploring formal debt settlement, or in serious cases, consulting a bankruptcy attorney to understand what legal protections and fresh start options actually exist. There is no shame in using the tools that exist for exactly this situation. The shame narrative around debt keeps people stuck far longer than the debt itself does, bringing it all together. So there they are, the 7 levels of debt, from having none at all to using it as a wealth building tool, to convenient spending, to manageable balances, to high interest traps, to income exceeding overload, and finally to insolvency. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Debt itself is not the enemy. The interest rate, the purpose behind the borrowing, and your ability to control it, those are what actually determine whether debt is helping you or hurting you. 2 people can both be in debt, and one of them is quietly building a real estate portfolio while the other is watching a credit card balance grow every month. Same word. Completely different outcomes. If you recognize yourself in level 4 or 5 while watching this, that's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to act now while the climb back is still short. And if you saw yourself in level 6 or 7, please hear this clearly. There are real paths back up. People climb out of every single one of these levels every single day. It starts with an honest look at where you actually stand, not where you wish you stood. Figure out your level, then figure out your next move. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.